You don't see a lot of unboxings of Modifius products on my channel because, quite honestly, they are among the best at packaging and shipping material out to gamers. They have raised the bar in virtually every level, whether that be selection of options or tracking, quality of their boxes, the quality of their packing material, and the levels where all of that stuff combines to synergize in safe delivery. Modifius simply does the logistics of shipping things out to people extremely well. Also, when we talk about print quality, getting material onto the page, selection of quality of paper, etc., Modifius very often knocks things out of the park. If they fail, the place that they've been failing lately is in the creation of the text. So you may wonder, why is it that we're looking at a Modifius box? Well, we're about to do an unboxing of a product which Modifius distributed at the time of order and now will have stewardship over. So there are several things that we should talk about. But first, let's just go with the excitement. Let's go with the opening of the very great box and then the revelation of what's inside. Based on the comments I've made already, I imagine people already know what's in here. So as you can see, it's well taped up in all directions. The box is heavy. The design of the box lids prevents damage of the product in transit and during opening. Really, top marks all the way around. Now I'm just going to adjust the camera here for a second and you'll be able to see inside to the air pillows, the extra layers of protection, and the bubble wrap and all that other nonsense. So air pillows on top. And then we have our nice theme for the product, a pink bubble wrap envelope, and then the product inside, most likely in shrink wrap. Of course, you see the box, and the box is giving away the secret. This is a set of vampire dice, and if you're going to order vampire dice, you're going to be ordering, well, some kind of vampire-related product, right? And that's exactly what we have. But you'll notice that this one appears to be gray, meaning it's not the standard issue cover, which I felt was too garish and out of theme for my tastes. So I chose to spend more on the core book while promising myself that I will not order any of the other material. I'm not going to go for faction guides or clan guides or city guides or whatever other kind of guides come down the pike this time. I have too much of that stuff personally from every previous edition. It's not worth it. So, take a look at the box for the dice. Let's delay the revelation of the book a little bit longer to look at this quirk. Every time I get dice, I look to see if there's a warning, like a choking hazard or something, and see what the age limit is. So for these dice, the manufacturer is telling you need to be 13 years old. I will leave all thoughts about the sensibility of that to you. You'll see that this is a 20 die set, which is pretty impressive. 13 vampire dice, 5 hunger dice, and 2 standard D10s, which should cover any single gamer's needs, which is kind of a nice surprise in this day and age of nearly enough dice for mostly a person. Anyway, let's get the book out of the shrink wrap. I find it amusing that the bubble wrap envelope turned out to be pink. It just makes me think of my long ago days of physical labor and how, this might be soaked in the blood of innocent warehouse workers. But as we look at the gray marble cover with the striking vampire logo, we are reminded that if we bought this through official channels, we'll be able to get the PDF. Now, when I got this as a pre-order through Modifius distribution channels, that required me to go and set up an account with White Wolf. Now, the PDF is available through a variety of other channels without needing to get the hardcover or hard copy books at all. So if you're not sure it's for you, that might be the route to go. But if you are a serious collector who is intending to buy this book just to have it sit somewhere and accrue some sort of value, please note that the shrink wrap with which it is bound is certainly not the toughest shrink wrap on the market. If you look, it's, it crumbles even in the finger. So that's kind of interesting and thematic for a vampire, but for a collector, maybe a problem. But here we have the dice. We're going to open the dice, show the dice, and then we'll get into the book because it's just more fun that way. So what kind of quality dice are we looking at, and what actually are the dice? Okay. The system has been set now so that 6 is the target number. What these dice do is skip the middleman of numbers and simply give you 5 blank faces. The red dice, which are the hunger dice, give you 4 blank faces. Now here, the 1 is replaced by this skull logo you can see on the right side of the page, and that is the only place where you're going to find anything like a botch on the dice. However, now it's not called a botch, now it's called a bestial failure. Critical success still exists, and you'll see that there's a normal Ankh symbol denoting success. There's a Ankh symbol with stars on the vampire standard pool dice. That represents 10, and if you get pairs of them, successes will double. So 1 pair equals 4 successes, but 1 10 on its own equals simply 1 success. On the red hunger dice, we have Ankhs with fangs to represent the 10s. We have Ankhs to represent success, and we have the bestial failure symbol to show you that you're now in a world of hurt. Well, hunger, to be more precise. So we still have the effect of rolling 10s. That hasn't completely gone away, although now success is referred to as a win. If you get enough successes to do what you wanted to do, that's called a win, and there are critical wins. Botches do sort of exist in the system at storyteller discretion. They're called total failures, and if the group feels like dealing with such an outcome would get in the way, then don't do it. If it has dramatic impact, then do it. So there are some similarities, and of all the mechanics in the game, it seems like the dice and the interplay of hunger, which slowly eats away at your die pools, has been the thing which received the most thought. So here we can see an Ankh. Here we see the fanged Ankh, blank face, and then over here is the bestial failure symbol. So that's a hunger die, and the hungrier you get, the more of your standard dice will be replaced by this, making it more and more likely that hunger is going to get in the way of you doing what you want to do. So this, more than anything else, is going to make this game feel like a game about vampires and get you wondering what they might do about the other proposed games in the line, such as Werewolf and the like. You get 2 standard dice. These are fine. They don't really match the quality of the rest of the dice. The standard dice look like this. So the 10s are marked with 2 stars, which, for some people might have an impact on the theme or the mood. And, maybe you could remind yourself, if you're having a problem with the stars, that, well, the stars only come out at night. But let's take a closer look at the dice so you get a sense of the quality of them. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very nice to get a big lot of 20 dice, which will be for quite some time more than enough to play the game with for a single person, and certainly quite useful for sharing around the table. In terms of painting these particular symbols, I had some trepidation thinking that there might be missing sections of paint, as we can often see, but at least on this set, there are no quality issues of that kind. The material from which the dice are made is also quite tough. The dice aren't scratched as many are with this kind of storage method. You can see some sort of surface marring, but generally speaking, these are very good quality dice. Here's a closer look at the two standard D10s. So, Vampire. It seems like what got people talking about this 5th edition was this hunger dice mechanic, and it seems like on several reads to me that the thing which received the most consideration was simply that. The rest seems to fall under the purview of the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule has been strengthened. If you don't like what you see in here, change it, fix it, adjust it, add something, drop something. If you want to play in a more loose style or format because of the requirements of your game, such as if you're involved in LARP, for example, go ahead and do that. If you want a return to the gritty, roll to hit, roll to dodge, roll for damage, roll to soak, if you really want to get into that, go for it. There's much more conversation in the text of the game about how to run Vampire than I have seen in a Vampire product before. This is a good thing. There are still large sections which do not receive that kind of treatment. There are still large sections which expect you to osmotically inform yourself through a wave after wave after wave of examples to figure out the game. And we'll talk about that a bit in a moment. Why wait, you ask? Well, because I can read your mind, dear viewer. We haven't looked at the book yet, so please look at the crimson ribbon in gilt-edged pages. Now, I know you're thinking that, hey, gilded pages, they're in gold. I didn't say that they were gilded. I said that they were coated in gilt. Whoever designed this cover deserves an award. This flat out is the most stirring homage to the original cover. That original cover, that green marble with red rose cover that grabbed my attention all the way across the game store so very long ago. This is the only thing which has come close to it in all the years between then and now. Even the collector's editions that came out with Revised, which, while striking, aren't this. So if you noticed that stamped World of Darkness logo on the front, you can feel it with your fingers. Likewise on the back, you can feel this sigil very deeply sunk into the material, and on the spine of the book where it says Vampire the Masquerade, this too you can feel stamped into not leather. And I'll be honest, the smell when I opened up the bubble wrap, which was then intensified when I took off the shrink wrap, is a very artificial, not at all natural smell. But we can distract ourselves by looking at how deep the stamping goes into whatever that material is. Not just a slight feel to the fingers, but a very deep and satisfying impression. So, this gray marble, black edges to the pages, bright red ribbon, bright red logo. Simple, elegant, powerful, and it is this sort of look which tells you, which whispers to you, which nods in your direction and lets you know that this game, this Vampire the Masquerade, can be more if you let it. So we open it up and we see on the inside covers we have a list of quick and ready victims, personalized. Quite nice. We have the sad and stirring dedication to members of the original White Wolf, now no longer with us, and all the new people who were involved in making this one, with some nods to the past as well, and the inclusion of Kenneth Haidt, which at certain points gave us some hope. Now, not sure how involved he actually was with the whole thing. When you open it up, there have been people who complained about how it looks and people who praised how it looks. Well, this is how it looks. It's basically a 3-column format. There's a lot of art. The art, in my opinion, rarely gets in the way of reading. However, if you are reading on a mobile device, or particularly a smaller mobile device, the changes between when there's 3 columns and when there isn't, and when there's columns and no columns on a page can definitely interfere with your reading pleasure. But the font size is fine, both with the physical product and with all the digital devices that I've looked at it on, which include a 10-inch tablet, an 8-inch tablet, a Galaxy Note 9, and a Galaxy S6. So I'm pretty comfortable reading it. Of course, on the desktop, it's just fine. Now, the font isn't anything to get up in the night and howl about, but it does its job of communicating, and it's an easy read. I'm going to pick this page as a standard format page, and the approach that we talked about earlier of inundating you with examples in lieu of explanations. Now, while there are, as I said, really good explanations to give you insight into how the system is supposed to work, there are notable exceptions, made more notable by the presence of explanation elsewhere. Unlike earlier editions of Storyteller, this particular version is not afraid of math. It talks about percentage chances of getting certain results. It talks about how to assess difficulty in terms of whether or not you should raise it or lower it, or whether you should apply a modifier to the dice pool or not. It talks about that in very clear terms. Where it resorts to using examples is in actual difficulties. So there is, of course, a chart, and we'll look at that chart in a moment. But it's filled with things that may not be the most exemplary examples known to gamers anywhere. However, the camera is pausing at specific things, like a difficulty set by an observer's traits, then halved. Mathematically, you can look at it and understand why that would be, but at the same time, you've got a chart that goes and lists up to 7 degrees of difficulty. So there's enough ambiguity here that for a first-time storyteller, for someone who, is of the shy demeanor, there could be things here which make this game seem, simple as it is, hard to run, or at least hard to feel confident about. Now we'll just step away from rules for a moment to look at the design of the book. This is a very high quality product. If you look at how it's laying here flat and obedient, you know that you can use this for a long, long time. Now, as a game is not its art, is not its binding, but is its text, let's return to our discussion of the text. One thing that this edition of Vampire is lean. It's very direct. We have a lot of information on each page. It's remarkably clear. And as I've noted several times now, and I want to repeat just one more time, it is willing to talk about itself and why certain decisions are made. We just need a little bit more of it if we're going to go in this direction. There are a lot of new and familiar mechanics from other games that have been imported openly into this game. Most of them with their, let's say, most recognizable names intact. Things like succeed at cost. So that is very handy, not only in helping bridge gaps to other games or coming in from other games, but recognizing that a lot of time has passed since the original Vampire, and a lot of conceptions about how games work, can work, how certain genres can be served, so on and so forth. A lot of these conceptions have changed over that period of time. So there are many very useful tools that should help a wide variety of groups feel like they're playing Vampire, maybe more effectively, more en genre than they felt in the past. or if they're new to the game, may feel a very strong hit that this is a game about vampires, and really that should be the goal. When we sit down or dress up, as it seems to be a large part of this particular edition's focus, when we prepare to play the game, the reward we should expect to get is that we felt like we played a game about vampires, not simply played a role-playing game with a topic of vampires, or a skin, a thin veneer of vampires. And my hope is that despite the game's confusion about to whom it is really speaking, despite all the callbacks to the old game, despite all the effort to make it feel like a new game, that whoever picks up the game to play it will have some of the same groundbreaking experiences in personal horror that the original game offered, and will be able to take it in new directions as suits what it is that they're looking to try in the first place. So, Flawed needed more time is lovely in its collector's edition, with text of reasonable quality, but which is now licensed to a different company with different goals. Vampire the Masquerade, 5th edition.